What's up, studs? Kunal here, Bulls on Wall Street. Guys, a lot to unpack in the stock market today. We had another down day with the stock market breaking under the 50 SMA. So let's spend some time digging into the stock market indices, figuring out what the heck is going on and where it can go. And then after that, we're going to dive in and look to see what type of trades we want to be taking tomorrow and coming into the week for both day traders and swing trades. Now, first things first, I've been trading my whole adult life, and one thing that I've noticed in the stock market is when you break under the 50-day moving average, you have to be very careful in the markets. You do not want to be holding a bunch of longs. You do not want to be doing momentum-based strategies. What I mean by that is that when the market is trending up its EMAs like this, you can do all sorts of stupid shit. You can average down on stocks. You can chase them. You can buy breakouts high. You can do all sorts of goofy stuff and get bailed out. What happens is when the market starts to turn and you break under those EMAs, and especially when you're under that 50, you get more gap downs in the market. All of a sudden, if you try to buy some like kind of flat top breakout, it'll peek its head and rip back under and do all sorts of stuff. You can hold a bunch of stocks overnight, and a stock like AVGO will come out, right, and get dusted on earnings, and then all of your stocks will get smoked out. And so for me personally, this is not an environment to be having a bunch of swing trades to the long side, one stock, two stocks, sure, but like having a portfolio or a book of stocks in my income accounts, I think is just not a good idea. I think this is more of a day trading market personally, and so let's dig in and see what's going on. So look, AVGO got smoked out again today, right? This AI move, we've been talking about this for a long time. It is tired. It's pulling back. Is it a crash or anything? No, look, AVGO's at the same price it was right about a month ago in the scheme of things, right? It's also up hundreds of percent from the tariff lows along with most of the other ones. And so this type of stuff happens. Like stocks don't just linearly go up every single day for like years at a time or even months at a time. There's a stair-stepping action to it. And then when those stair steps are done, then you get this like kind of broader kind of distributive shop. And that's what we're kind of seeing right now in most of these type of names. So I'm not that bullish on the AI names. I don't think there's really anything that we can personally do in them except short the shit out of them. But I will say this, if AVGO gaps down tomorrow, only if it gaps down, I repeat, only if it gaps down and it gets down into somewhere between 327 and 315-ish, I will start looking at a long. Ideally, if it breaks below this lower Bollinger Band, that's my spot. The Bollinger Bands on AVGO work pretty good. If you look at any of the times in the past where like it's kind of broken below it, over here, kind of over here, there's been right here, it's actually bounced. And so give me that lower Bollinger Band and then some, and I think we're in for, maybe a little bit of a spot. Tesla didn't close that well. I don't know if we can read too much into that. It has basically broken up, give or take. You could say that, the 480s is the real breakout. Call it 500 for shits and giggles, but, it's kind of inching its way higher there. The gap up didn't help today, especially with the market conditions fading off on the lame 8s or lame 7s, whatever you want to call them. We are at the top of the Bollinger on this, so I do think if we get some backing and filling in this, like maybe it comes down into this spot in the 460s, it'll probably bounce back. The price action of this has been very good. If you notice, remember on Friday, like it dumped off 20 points and it got rebounded back. And so that's what I'm a buyer into this. Now, look, it did have this kind of two-candle, kind of two-pump chump at the end of the day. I wouldn't read too much into that. I think some of that had to do, maybe, I saw some news out in Ford, but it actually got received well. Ford was doing all sorts of charges or whatever, but writing off their EV business, but it actually held up pretty well. So I don't know if it was anything. To me, it's the only good-looking stock really out there, out of the tech. There's other good-looking stocks out there, but out of the tech. EXK, I'm still waiting on this one. This is a silver stock. and it's been coiling up real nice. Like we're right under that sweet spot. Let's see if we break out over here. If we do, then I'll probably put a stop under the 9 EMA. RIVN is holding up too. The issue with RIVN is it's a 1 a.m. setup, right? That's the problem with the RIVN. It's a 1 a.m. setup. It's not a 7 p.m. setup. It's not an 8 p.m. setup. It's a 1 a.m. setup. You know the drill. Like it looks good when you've been at the bar for 4 or 5 hours and you think nobody else is looking. It looks real good, right? Before that last call, when you're just sitting there like it is dry, all of a sudden, right? Everybody starts looking pretty good. I wouldn't say everybody, but right, 50% of the people that you immediately would have shot down, so a lot of them start looking pretty good. You start thinking like, man, just because she's wearing a hoodie doesn't mean like, she's like a big girl or anything. Maybe she's anemic and cold, right? Like maybe she's anemic. But this is a 1 a.m. setup. If we didn't have these two wicks, I would consider this an 8 p.m. setup. I really would. No, I really would. So keep an eye on this bad boy. I think it's got a good look to it. But it's a 1 a.m. setup due to these wicks. It may just need to tighten up here. And once it gets there, like it'll turn into something a little bit better. UAL is okay. The issue is this. It's an airlines, of course. So there's not going to be like some big sexy trader. And then, the other thing is this the right market to do this type of breakout? This specific breakout setup, which is what we call flat top breakout, is really for when the market is in a run-up phase. We're not in a run-up phase currently. I feel like we're in a distributive environment in certain sectors, and other ones are kind of picking up a little bit of steam, but nothing that really jumps out at you, right? Like when you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, the transports are so hot, right? Like, oh my God, check out the industrials. That's not a risk-on market to me. Like, whoa, the industrials. Like, oh my God. Not the industrials, right? But like, when like Boeing and UAL are like your like hotter kind of names. And Boeing does look kind of good too here for a range break. Once again, it's going to be a little bit slow. It's a 3% ATR, so it's not going to get you it's not going to get you gains like iron, right? It's going to get you a little bit different type of stuff. Hey, but it's there. And it's a buenos, it's a muchos, and a buenos, and a bella ciao. Bella ciao, bella ciao. So UAL, hey, LULU, I think the bottom's in on this bad boy. I'm just waiting for this to tighten up and back and fill. The earnings came out. For once, it was well received. We're getting a rotation out of some of these techies, so let's see what's up. Boeing, we talked about. Hey, inside day. Whoa. Inside day on gold. Now, look, it's rolled over 2 days in a row. Solid candles, but you're basing out here for that 400 break. We're in the, more of a, we've had a lot of stages of gold. If we're thinking like maybe this 200, this was the big breakout, then this one. We're in the last phases of, this epic gold run. It doesn't mean gold's going to topple over anything. I'm going to talk about the pure momentum. At some point, gold will start looking more like, NVIDIA, where it's like, you're kind of like, you tilt your head a little bit, and you're like, it's bullish. It's not. Kind of is. And, you get into some of that aspect of thing. Gold will go into one of those kind of phases soon, but I think we got one last grand finale on this one, too. Google, leave alone. Hey, if we need a short tomorrow, Netflix got a little baby bear flag over here. Just a weak structure pattern for the most part. Every little bounce has been getting fade off. I don't know why. They haven't looked, but it's a turd. Hey, MU's got earnings out on Wednesday. Same playbook as AVGO. If this gaps up on earnings day, I'm not even going to look at the earnings. I'm going to look on a short-term time frame, probably go to like 2-minute chart and try to fade this big Try to fade this piggy because it is an oinker. I mean, this thing was 50 bucks. You had 250, that's a 5x. Its day is done. AMD, bear flag life. So look, you got this pullback here. Right, you got the pullback here. And then you got a nice rollover. Starting to take out some ranges. We've been shorting this one in the chat room non-stop the last few days. I think that one's still, it's got room down to 194 before you got to make some decisions. Crowd. This is a bear flag here too, right? That's what I mean. Like everything looks like a bear flag, right? It's like you got this thing, trend line break, 9 EMA, broke under 500 today. 16 points of range today. Yeah, it's a 20-pointer. I think we can do something like that. And then AVGO, look, I'm into this one, but only if it gaps down. Give me like 10, 15-point gap down, I try it for the long. If it gaps up, I'm leaving it alone because I do think probably MU is going to add some more pressure into the market. No, that's a guess, by the way. Just, I have no evidence of that, right? But just, a mother's intuition. Look at this. Get a bear flag in MSTR. If this gaps up tomorrow, I think, we try to fade this for a day trade. If you're a swing trader, probably the entry was more maybe around here, but it still looks like it's doable. RIVN, dude, we laid the nuts on this one today. Man, I took this one right out of the gate at the open with some Sazolas. And Sazolas Areolas. Man, I think this one's got a date with the 200-day moving average, which is 26. It's got room still. A lot of times you may be like, oh my God, it's fallen so much. It's like, no, you got to really look at where it started, then where it went, and then now, right? Same thing, like you see something like an AVGO or something, you're like, well, how much more down can it go? Well, it could go a lot more down, more downer, right? Like, yeah, it was at 200, now it's at 80, but it was, $5, $7, right? So you're still 1,000% up in the last year, even after this big drop. It's a piggy. So I think but this one's too extended now. Like you're down 5-6 days in a row. I think RIVN today was a big, a big whoosher. I won't chase it on a gap down, but like, if it opened back up, like say mid-range into, today's candle, I think I would probably look at something like that. Silver still cooking. I've been swinging these calls down from here into the bone zone here, pre-breakout. I don't got many left though, that's for sure. And that's it. So as you can see, it's like I would give this watch list B-, right? There's a lot of kind of just like bear flaggy looks to things, but frankly, they could also be support plays depending on the day and what kind of news it is. So they do look like longer term kind of, like you see this, guys, when you see like the big middle finger looking up. I mean, those are kind of rollover patterns in general. You can call them whatever you want, but when you see this, right, like the knuckles deep, middle finger, like, right, like right there, it's something. So hey, look, I love you guys. Let's go do the Lord's work today. Peace in the Middle East.